7 bodies were found today in Oklahoma, Henrietta, Oklahoma, just east of Oklahoma City. This is in Okmulgee County.
In the realm of parental fears, none is more haunting than the loss of a child. On the first day of May 2023, an otherwise ordinary Monday in Henrietta, Oklahoma, an Amber Alert sent shockwaves through the small community. Local teens Ivy Webster, 14, and Brittany Brewer, 15, had vanished. Their disappearance, alarming as it was, would be the catalyst for an even more horrifying revelation. The extensive search for the girls culminated in a chilling tableau, a property dotted with 7 lifeless bodies. The grim discovery not only stunned the families of the missing girls, but also cast a pall of dread over the entire town of Henrietta. The land, sprawling over 100 acres on the town's fringes, was rented by Jesse Lee McFadden and his wife, Holly Tinette L. McFadden. McFadden, as it would turn out, would be identified as a registered sex offender and convicted rapist. The gruesome find thrust the ordinarily peaceful Henrietta into the national spotlight in the most dreadful way. Henrietta, a quaint country town with less than 6,000 residents, had been known for its legacy of rodeo culture personified by the likes of Jim Shoulders and Terry Don West, rather than for any sinister happenings. This close-knit community boasted notable natives such as Football Hall of Famer and former Dallas Cowboy Troy Aikman, Oklahoma Supreme Court Justice Stephen W. Taylor, and former Major League Baseball player Mark Rial. Yet, this gruesome discovery sent shockwaves through the town's foundations, overshadowing its proud history. The shock was not confined to the families of Ivy and Brittany, or the residents of Henrietta. Even McFadden's own mother was left reeling. However, the grim tale doesn't conclude with this revelation. The story, much like the investigation into the shocking crime, continues to unfold, promising further revelations in the harrowing chapter of Henrietta's story. As Sunday, April 30th, 2023 unfolded, the atmosphere took an eerie turn. Both Ivy and Brittany, who were due back home that Sunday afternoon or evening, didn't appear. Even more unsettling was the silence from the girls. The Brewer and Webster families, accustomed to regular updates from their daughters, had received no communication. Seeking to allay their concerns, McFadden reached out to both families, reporting that they were in McAllister, working on his ranch, and that everything was fine. But the truth was far from his assurances. As the hours ticked by, the girls never showed up at home. By Monday, May 1st, 2023, the Brewer and Webster families, consumed by worry and fear, filed missing persons reports. Amber Alerts were swiftly issued that same morning, and so began a heart-wrenching journey into uncertainty and dread for these two families. A chilling revelation soon unfurled as the families discovered McFadden's dark past. He was a convicted rapist and a registered sex offender. Meanwhile, investigators were piecing together a disturbing pattern. McFadden had been conspicuously absent from his jury trial scheduled for that morning, which was related to another sexual offense case involving a minor.
I think yesterday was probably one of the worst days of my life.
Adding to the mounting sense of dread, authorities found that the Sunday night trip to McAllister, Oklahoma, as claimed by McFadden, had never even occurred. Neither McFadden nor Holly could be contacted by anyone. Disturbingly, no one had been in touch with McFadden, Holly, or any of the children since Sunday. And McFadden's voice had been the last voice that anybody heard on Saturday. The Okmulgee Sheriff's Department, already in possession of a failure to appear bench warrant due to McFadden's skipped jury trial, swiftly secured a search warrant based on the accumulating evidence. They turned their focus to the property rented by McFadden and his wife Holly. What they discovered there was a horrifying sight that defied all expectations. 7 lifeless bodies scattered across the property. With heavy hearts, the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department was tasked with delivering the agonizing news to the Brewer and Webster families, who had been clinging to the hope that their daughters were safe. The once vibrant community of Henrietta was left grappling with a tragedy that would forever tarnish its small town tranquility. In the harrowing span between Saturday, April 29th, 2023, and Monday, May 1st, 2023, Jesse Lee McFadden orchestrated a monstrous act of violence. This mass killing and subsequent suicide claimed 7 lives. Among the victims were his wife, Holly, her children, Riley Elizabeth Allen, 17, Michael James Mayo, 15, Tiffany Gore Guess, 13, and their friends, Ivy Webster, 14, and Brittany Brewer, 15. In a chilling conclusion to his rampage, McFadden used a 9mm handgun purchased by Holly in September of 2022 to end his own life. The grim tableau unfolded across the expansive property. Holly and her 2 children, Michael and Tiffany, were discovered together outside the McFadden home. Some 500 yards away, the lifeless bodies of Riley, Ivy, and Brittany were found, each separated from the others by approximately 150 yards. According to the preliminary findings of the medical examiner, Holly had been struck by 3 gunshot wounds to the head, while Michael and Tiffany suffered 2. Riley, Ivy, Brittany, and McFadden each bore a single gunshot wound to the head. Their bodies were discovered around 3:00 p.m. on the fateful Monday, May 1st, 2023. As the investigation unfolded, law enforcement on the scene maintained a remarkable reticence. Their silence raised questions among the anxious community members, but most urgently among the victims' families, who were desperate for answers.
Normal people can't understand why. People that perpetrate crimes like this are evil. And normal folks like us can't understand why they do that.
Okmulgee County Sheriff Eddie Rice, addressing the press outside the cordoned-off McFadden property on the day of the grim discovery, shared that investigators are no longer looking for the 2 teenagers who had been the subjects of that morning's Amber Alerts. However, he remained notably tight-lipped about the identities of the other victims. "We believe we have found the persons," he said. "We are just waiting for confirmation." When probed about the potential inclusion of McFadden among the victims, his response was a terse yes. Adding to the atmosphere of controlled disclosure, Gerald Davidson, the spokesperson for the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, or OSBI, stated, "There is no suspect at large that we are looking for at this moment." He added, "So there is no threat to the community." These sparse, guarded responses, devoid of any detailed information, left a vacuum that soon filled with speculation. As the community grappled to make sense of the tragedy, it seemed that the unspoken facts may hold more weight than the tidbits shared by the authorities. The pressing question remained: what were they not saying, and why were they saying so little? Jesse Lee McFadden had been set free from prison prematurely in 2020. Having served just shy of 17 years of his 20-year sentence for first-degree rape, his release was even more unsettling considering that he was due in court that very morning for a jury trial tied to another sex crime, a case that had actually originated during his incarceration. According to Oklahoma's stringent sentencing requirements for such severe offenses, McFadden should have served at least 85% of his original sentence. However, his release, just short of 17 years, fell short of this threshold.
I was tied up to all the metal poles of it with just different bungee cords of my dad's, different like belts, just whatever he could find. A knife held to my throat because I was screaming so loud. He's like, "If you don't quit screaming, he's like, B, I'm going to kill you right here." Disturbingly,
McFadden had secured his early freedom despite having committed an additional sexual offense before his release, a fact that raised profound questions about the checks and balances of the justice system meant to protect society from such recidivist behavior. On Sunday night, at approximately 8:00 p.m., McFadden texted the victim for the case that he was defending himself against. The message read, "I did exactly what I promised I would do when I got out. I got a marketing job, making great money, and was being advanced. Been there 2 years now, and made a great life like I promised I would do with you. Now it's all gone. I told you I wouldn't go back. This is all on you for continuing this." During a press conference held on Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, Okmulgee Police Chief Joe Prentice offered a grim assessment of the case. "I follow the evidence, and the evidence is that McFadden murdered 6 people and then killed himself," he stated unequivocally. Yet, when it came to understanding the rationale behind the chilling act, Prentice admitted, "I don't have any evidence to indicate what the actual motive was." Prentice also shed light on a particularly unsettling aspect of the crime scene. It appeared to have been manipulated post-crime. The evidence suggested that McFadden had moved the bodies of his victims after committing the murders, implying a chilling level of calculation and control. On May 8th, 2023, the investigation took a more rigorous turn as an excavator was brought in onto the McFadden property. OSBI assured Ivy Webster's grandmother that they would conduct an exhaustive search. They committed to leaving no stone unturned before relinquishing control of the property. This promise provided a glimmer of hope in the midst of tragedy, a hope that justice would be served and closure could eventually be found for the families and the community affected by the horrifying event. The most poignant insights into the harrowing case emerged from the voices of victims' families. Jeanette Mayo, mother of Holly McFadden, confirmed that her daughter and 3 grandchildren were among the 7 individuals discovered on the property.
Webster grapple with knowing their little girl is gone.
We need to be told the answers of everything here soon. I'm tired of hearing we can't know right now, and it's frustrating. We need to know. Everybody needs to know.
The state's medical examiner, Eric Pfeiffer, had informed him that Brittany had succumbed to a single gunshot wound to the head. 2 days later, Okmulgee Police Chief Joe Prentice publicly confirmed the identities of the 6 victims. Holly and her children, Riley, Michael, and Tiffany, along with their friends, Ivy Webster and Brittany Brewer. The authorities also confirmed that McFadden was the 7th body found at the scene, with the evidence suggesting he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. One family member recounted a chilling detail. It appeared that 3 of the victims had made a desperate attempt to escape. It was suspected that McFadden had intended to have more individuals present at the sleepover, with signs pointing towards a premeditated plan. Annika, a friend of Tiffany's, shared a haunting revelation.
"I got a text asking if I wanted to go up to the mall in Tulsa, and I said, I don't know if I can do that today, and she said, okay, and I said, maybe next week."
Frustrated by the Okmulgee Sheriff's Department's secrecy and feeling unsettling disquiet about the whole situation, Ivy Webster's father, Justin, decided to take matters into his own hands. On Thursday, May 4th, 2023, he invited the news outlet K4 to accompany him, his wife, and his mother-in-law on a somber journey through the McFadden home in search of answers. Granted access by the property owners, they braced themselves for the painful truths that awaited them. Their quest, however, unearthed more than they had ever imagined. Was there an inclination among the law enforcement agencies to swiftly close the case, given the apparent death of the suspected perpetrator? The families wouldn't stand for it. The discoveries they made sparked a chain of events that resulted in a significant shift in the investigation. By Monday, May 6, 2023, OSBI assumed full control of the case, having previously only been supporting. So what was it that they found that prompted such a dramatic turn of events? Computer equipment. They found 3 computer towers throughout the house, 2 laptops and a cabinet in the laundry room, 6 desktop monitors throughout the house, 9 cell phones, including Ivy Webster's, sexual and bondage devices, a bed frame with restraints attached to it. They still had chains attached, a human dog collar, bondage devices, handcuffs, restraints bolted to the kitchen counter, and chains and padlocks attached. There was padlock packaging and a receipt for the purchase just 2 days prior. Drugs and drug paraphernalia, there was a syringe filled with a black substance. Could that have been heroin? Were the girls tested for heroin when their autopsies were conducted? There was a prescription medication bottle prescribed to McFadden that was also in the room, along with other drug paraphernalia. There was a ledger of names and date of births, possibly of additional victims. This was a scary one. There was also a ULOC storage unit payment with the storage unit number, another possibility of additional victims. A shelf lined with witchcraft-related books. Did that have anything to do with it? And then a twin-size bed with a pink patterned blanket lying across it in the living room.
I mean, just going in that house, it doesn't take much to realize very quickly that things aren't okay.
An eye hook and chain on a kitchen counter, that's not normal.
When the attorney told you to go back in to get more video, I mean, as a grandma, that must have been difficult.
I couldn't have my daughter do it again.
On May 8th, 2023, a heart-wrenching revelation came to light. Shannon Boykin, Ivy Webster's grandmother, informed News 9 that the medical examiner had confirmed Ivy had been sexually assaulted. Then on Tuesday, May 9th, 2023, even more alarming details emerged. A private investigator, engaged by the family's attorney, Cameron Spaulding, found that a staggering 32 cell phones were registered to McFadden's address. This crucial information was promptly handed over to the OSBI, only a day after they took the helm of the investigation. The scale of the tragedy and the horrifying revelations drove Ivy Webster's father, Justin, to express his anguish and anger publicly. We can't have parents go through what we have. I'm angry. This should have never happened, he lamented. Cameron Spaulding, Webster's family's attorney, took to Twitter, revealing that the OSBI had detected a potential disturbance in a pond on the property that they hoped to clarify soon. He also reported sightings of an excavator on the property. In a potent plea, he wrote, "No words can express this family's fear that the sexual assault of their baby girl has been placed on the dark web. We demand that law enforcement seize all electronic devices within the house of horrors." The families of all the victims are grappling with unspeakable grief, mourning the tragic loss of their loved ones. Melena Chabelle, Brittany's mother, shared the sad detail that her daughter had just celebrated her 15th birthday the week prior, a future that was cruelly snatched away. Jeanette Mayo, Holly McFadden's mother, has been very vocal on social media in the aftermath of the tragedy. Amidst her own grief, she has been dealing with criticism directed towards her late daughter. She revealed that Holly had discovered the truth about McFadden a few months prior to the tragic incident, and that McFadden had offered an explanation that Holly had accepted. This adds another layer of complexity and sorrow to the already tragic circumstances surrounding these events. A post on Facebook from Jeanette Mayo reads, "I am going to say this again. My daughter Holly did not know the truth about Jesse McFadden, and now she and my grandbabies are dead. Stop bashing her." LaDonna McFadden, the mother of McFadden, said, "Had any time to think about my son or anything like that. I don't understand it," she said. "I never, ever would have expected anything like this." Given further evidence unearthed by the family within the McFadden residence, this case might hold deeper intricacies than what initially meets the eye. We are compelled to question, did Oklahoma prematurely release McFadden from incarceration? The answer is yes. He was sentenced to 20 years, 7,300 days. He was released at 16.8 years and 6,132 days. This means that he served 84% of his sentence, and there was an active case pending that occurred while he was incarcerated. As we continue to navigate the complex landscape of criminal justice, it's clear that certain protocols could use an overhaul. Here are a few propositions. The parole board system should be updated to include automatic alerts for any case that involves A, a victim notification, or B, a convict who is currently implicated in an active case. These flags should be cleared on an electronic device before any parole board action can be initiated. The scheduling of jury trials involving known violent offenders should not be deferred for years, regardless of the circumstances. Given that trial dates are determined well in advance, It's crucial to have a replacement ready to step in for the prosecution or defense if necessary. In a world that has adapted to remote operations post-COVID, even Zoom could have been utilized if needed. In the context of marriage, a flagging system should be incorporated into the application process for a marriage license. If one of the individuals is a registered sex offender, especially when children are involved, an alert should be raised. It should be mandatory to disclose the information to the other party, and in such cases, the issuance of the marriage license should be automatically denied. These potential changes could create a more robust system, better equipped to protect those at risk and prevent future tragedies. In a perplexing oversight, McFadden's name was notably absent from the Oklahoma Sex Offender Registry. This is a glaring failure by the state, one that has resulted in unimaginable pain for 4 families, an outcome that is unequivocally unacceptable. His first known survivor, Crystal Strong, endured the terror of being bound and threatened with a knife. The second survivor, Caitlin Babb, was manipulated, assaulted, and subsequently threatened. Despite these horrifying experiences, it seems as though the relevant authorities failed to take decisive action. Such oversights must not go unaddressed. There is a dire need for accountability in the system in order to prevent such devastating consequences from repeating in the future.
I mean, I feel horrible. It makes you feel terrible, like you're not even human. Especially when it's something that could have been prevented and it never should have happened. 100%, this is a failure on our justice system. And this is a huge failure on their part. This is something that they could have stopped. This never had to happen.
In-depth research suggests that recidivists are responsible for a disproportionate volume of crime, with post-prison arrest rates soaring 30 to 45 times higher than that of the general population. Tragically, these crimes tend to escalate over time, often culminating in murder. In a study by Abel and his team, paraphiliacs, those diagnosed with a psychosexual disorder, were interviewed under conditions of assured confidentiality. The startling revelation was that a mere 3.3% of their self-confessed, hands-on sex offenses, such as rape and child molestation, resulted in arrest. This case remains in progress. We urge anyone possessing pertinent information to contact the OSBI tip line at 1-800-522-8017 or send them an email, tips@osbi.ok.gov. Confidentiality is guaranteed for those providing information.